Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekends with Amit, and I am your host, Krishanu. Last week, if you have seen, we had a number of people talking about the practices, the consultancies that we are offering right now on our webpage, cqaedu.com. This particular episode, we will concentrate on something that most of us want. We want whatever we want. Think about it. We all wish that we could have the power to manifest things at will. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen this way. And there are literatures, there are shows elsewhere in the world which will tell you that if you just think, the universe will conspire to get it for you. We have news that that really is not the case. But what is the case then? We'll get to know from our eminent people here today, Professor Amit Goswami and Dr. Valentina Onisor. A very, very warm welcome to both of you. Well, the subject today is something very interesting to me personally, and I feel the same thing will be there, where people actually want to manifest things, manifest objects, manifest situations, manifest this and that. But what are the subtleties of that? Most people really cannot. That's the experience. Otherwise, the world would have been a very different place. So, what could those subtleties be? Let us know from Professor Goswami.
Yeah, the subtleties of manifestation indeed are a very important topic. And to tell you the truth, I mean, we have much to learn about it. I'm not saying that we know everything about it. We do know some things about it now, so much so that we, in fact, train people to make what is required to make in order for manifestation to become at least a plausibility in terms of happening. The idea, of course, as Krishanu said, is very, very simple. We have many desires and we want those desires to manifest. And behind that desire to manifest is the belief often there is that somehow I am an exception to what is generally called fatalism, that there is something that will happen to everyone anyways. That kind of belief, fatalism, belief in fate, it is in my fate. That's one way of handling things. But then there are people who believe that they're special people. Their numbers are quite large, these people who feel they're special. So in what way they are special? They receive special consideration from God who decides the fate. So for them, they determine their fate. They will create desires and that will manifest. In that way, it's God's grace that manifests things for them. So this idea in recent times became very popular in America because a physicist in quantum physics, von Neumann, who suggested that maybe there is some truth to that consciousness chooses the outcome of what will happen in a certain case, because quantum physics says that objects are superposition of possibilities for consciousness to choose from. In other words, an object is not a single possibility. An electron does not have just a possibility of appearing in one position. It can be in many positions at the same time. It's a wave. And therefore, when the observer observes the electron, the observer can choose where the electron will manifest. This was the suggestion. And from that, physicist Fred Alan Wolf went one step further. Maybe if we can choose the fate of the electron, maybe we can choose our own fate. We choose our own reality. He made that phrase, we choose our own reality. And that was in the 1970s. Many people started following this dictum. It seems like the answer to this old age desire of everybody that we could make our desires come true. That's the ultimate desire. Like if you have a genie in a bottle that you released, or that Aladdin's surprising lamp, wonderful lamp, then this would be the desire for you in the genie, right? You desire and the genie delivers. And the genie in this case is your own consciousness, so you should have no problem. And to that, many other mystical ideas were added. For example, in the movie Secret, the idea was added that no, you have to wait. You have to wait. You have to meditate on it. That's a very interesting idea too. This gives you a caveat. If you don't manifest, means what? You didn't meditate properly. So, it's foolproof, that kind of idea. And then another idea was added that is called the attractor principle. This what you often want to manifest are archetypal stuff like love. Who doesn't want love in his life? You see a person and you want the person to fall in love with you because you want that person to love that person. So how do you manifest it? Obviously, you would want to manifest love in that person for you, right? And so is the idea that if you are attracted to an archetype, the archetype will come down to you also. Archetypes are attracted to you as well. Oh, this is wonderful. Love, abundance, riches, money, that's also an archetype of abundance. Power, more than the physical power, mental power, even divine power, that's also an archetype. So all these archetypes are attracted to me. All I have to do is to close my eyes, sit as if I'm meditating, and the archetype will come down and I'll get my wish. How nice, how wonderful. So these books, these movies, they made zillions of dollars. I won't get into that part because that is the verification of their own science of manifestation. And people have been impressed by it. And there is some reality in it because they did make a lot of money. So the archetype of abundance seems to have been attracted to them. So there must be something going on. What is it that is going on? Well, in quantum physics, the idea is dubious. Why? Because of a paradox. We don't think about it in terms of love, but sometimes it does happen for men especially, or even women. But say, both of us, two men, want the same woman, very desirable woman. Who gets to choose the woman? Who will the woman choose? Let's put it that way. Can we influence that? We simultaneously want the same woman. Let's make it very stringent. Simultaneously. So whose choice will come? All of us are observers of this thing, love, a movement of the archetype. I collapse, I know I collapse for me. And my friend collapses for himself. Who will the woman collapse it for? Me or him? Huge question, right? So many people would like to answer to that. So the problem is that forget men, women, that makes it too complex. Let's take the electron. Electron has a many-faceted condition. One facet has to be chosen. I choose one and another experimenter chooses another position. So I want it here at this measuring apparatus, this photographic film that I'm holding. He is holding another piece of the photographic film. He wants it there. Who gets to choose? Really, there is no criterion to choose. There is no criterion that women will choose you or him. The reason that men always have said that you cannot predict women's character, which way she will go, only God knows, and maybe God doesn't. Mysterious, right? Now, similarly, choice is mysterious. And then, of course, 30 years later, I came into the picture, and all of a sudden, I was talking to a mystic of all people, and the idea came to me that, well, if consciousness is the same for both of you, both of us, including the woman, or consciousness is same for two experimenters looking at an electron, then there is no problem. That one consciousness chooses. So suppose you and I are potentially one, and you do something to become so entangled that we become one, and then our choice is that choice of that oneness that we have become. Something was potential, we have actualized it. How did we actualize it? Notice in this case, how did I actualize it? I actualized it by making it identical. My choice identical with the choice of consciousness, that oneness. If I give up my choice, if he gives up his choice, become neutral, that's kind of surrendering to the movement of consciousness. Then consciousness chooses. But we are aligned with consciousness, we are surrendering to it. Therefore, we are also choosing that because we already are tuned with the choice of consciousness. Isn't that a simpler way? But of course, you will say, oh, but religions have been doing that for ages. Everybody knows that when you pray, you always pray, let it be God's will. Thy will be done. Let it be God's will. That's the way to do it. You don't exert your individual will. Instead, you always tune yourself to God's will. Movement of consciousness. That's what we call it today. And you know what? Quantum physics is something else. Movement of consciousness is purposive, indeed. So if you serve the purpose of consciousness, you can even tune into consciousness so easily. How do I tune in? By following the purpose of the movement of consciousness. And what is this purpose? The purpose is to manifest the archetypes in embodiment in the world. If you want to love, that coincides with the purpose of consciousness, because consciousness wants people to love. But what kind of love is that? This is what the problem is. If you want this beautiful woman for your satisfaction of sexuality, think again. She may not want it. That's what the problem is. We want, you want, but does the other want it? So movement of consciousness is not going to support it. What kind of movement does consciousness support? Where there is a mutual agreement. Both of them want to be in love with each other. That's when romance happens, doesn't it? Two people meet, they're meeting all the time, nothing happens. Then two people meet and all of a sudden something happens. What's the difference? Difference is that they're both wanting the same archetype at that moment. So all these can be combined, and when we combine them, we get a concept called creative intentionality. And now we'll give to our eminent Dr. Valentina Onisor to teach you how to make intention come true, an intention practice. Valentina?
Thank you. So, indeed, people are fascinated about this, and why not? Because as we become more and more intelligent, and at the same time more happy, so we start expanding our consciousness, and on the path of healing, again, we develop a healthy character, and of course we open towards love and healthy relationships. That's what something everybody wants, that, right? And as Amit just said now, so to give you an example, there is really a quantum science of the heart. There's a lot of study of the role of the heart, and especially when you have a relation, you wonder what's happening after so many years, when love and attraction also disappear, right? And as Amit just proposed, so if the two are healthy, mature as much as possible, but if they really genuinely intend, use this power of intention in the beginning of the day, in the beginning of the night, together, they just intend, let's fall in love, let's love. They will see it's over and over. You're tapping into that, what is called the energy of the beginning, and which is so full of everything that we need. It's full of such a mystery which we will never fully discover, and that's what we call an archetype, actually, the love archetype. And none of the archetypes, all of them are infinite attributes, divine attributes. And all we can do eventually is to again, as Amit said, to embody them gradually in our lives. So, and yes, we can create our own reality, but we have to know how to access this bigger consciousness that we seem to be enjoying moment to moment in the usual life, and that we call ego. So in the movie The Secret, actually, you don't get this secret. So, because again, the bigger consciousness, the ground of being, that's what creates the reality. And as Krishanu mentioned initially, that we think that. Of course, we have, if we are just thinking with the mind, which can be developed, why not? But still, it's a monkey mind if it's just the lower mind, unless we get to perceive and to develop what is called the higher mind, buddhi in Sanskrit. So again, we keep thinking all kind of thoughts. Thoughts come to us. Half of the thoughts. It's like sometimes we are, if you're noticing what's happening with our minds, we are like a cow regurgitating over and over the same things. And again, as a doctor, that's what I'm working first, to see what is happening there. You have to learn to practice a little bit of awareness of what's happening with your mind, and see, because usually we just see the tip of the iceberg. You don't see what is there. And once you see what are the patterns that are repeating, which are really blocking your creativity there, but there's a message of healing, there's a message of transformation. So once you see that and you start practicing what is called mental hygiene gradually, that's the beginning of healing. That's the beginning of creativity, beginning of freedom, beginning of the power of choice, and so on. But usually, so before speaking of intent, really, we have to see that usually we don't pay attention, and when we don't pay attention, consciousness chooses on the average basis, so that's why thoughts seem to be random. And how to avoid that? It's really just by paying attention. And it sounds easy, but it's not really easy, especially because nowadays there's no training of attention, which should be the basic things in all the educational systems, before throwing your kids a tablet or something like that, because you're busy, of course. And again, if you ruin their attention especially in the early age, there's no way that that person will really develop all that is there so strong, the quantum brain and so on, all those qualities that are unique in each person. So again, the first part is to learn to pay attention, because again, otherwise consciousness will choose the average, and you'll never get what you want, because the reason we suffer and we have conflicts is that we don't think with one mind. We think that and that and that. We have many, many ways that we think, and most people are really a little bit self-destructive and oftentimes negative. And of course there are reasons. You check the recordings that we did on the obstacles, for example, because brain is always going to throw all kind of negative stuff, negative emotions, experiences, jealousy, and so on, and lack of self-trust, and so many things, and or violence, domination, all these things. There are obstacles in terms of creating your own reality. So they are built in the brain, and some of them also can be external. But usually we have problems with the internal ones, because the more we transform and we integrate all these obstacles and use them in an alchemical way to transform, you will see also the outer reality is going to change. So again, intention has to be done with attention. I have to make this point, So intention again is making a certain desire my focus. It's a focused attention, and that requires attention. And how to get attention? For example, of course, focus meditation, starting with an external object. So it takes a training. But now I'm not going to tell you too much about that training, just to mention something like, for example, moving your attention, following your breathing, not influencing your breathing just in and out, or the classic trataka with the flame of a candle, for example. So we will see your life quality will change. And again, there's a strong relation between attention and choice. Of course, you need the choice to make a choice before setting an intention, right? Again, as Krishanu said, we think that, we choose that, and then we are wondering why it's not happening, in any area. So again, from the quantum attention is when we speak of intention and choice, yeah. And attention is best when things are clear. So usually we pay attention mostly to what we have experienced before. There is, of course, a huge conditioning that we have, and we should be aware of that before engaging consciously in creativity. Yeah. So, of course, attention is a characteristic of the geniuses, because they can pay attention also to the unknown. An average person is not even noticing when a quantum leap takes place, for example, or when you are faced with an unknown something, but the genius is looking for it and will become aware, So it's, of course, if you speak of any insights or discoveries, attention has to be there. If not, you're just missing it. And you can miss it also in love, you can miss it in all the areas. And again, we need this preparation of attention and clarity, especially if you want to transform. And again, also, if you want to engage into creativity, without attention, you cannot do anything. Yeah. So attention and intention, they go very well together. Yeah, it's very easy to put today a diagnostic. And as a doctor, I'm noticing so much diagnostic of anxiety, depression, and ADHD, which they are all sure signs of a person who lost the capacity to be attentive. And if you're not attentive, you also cannot exert a free will at all, And with willpower, it's also coming the freedom to choose from a certain conditioning, and it's also manifesting a state which is called self-respect. Yeah. So just check if you're interested in science, quantum neuroscience of attention, which has got a lot of research nowadays. Yeah. Also, when you're doing exercises, yeah, I'm also a yoga practitioner. So, for example, when you practice hatha yoga, when you do a physical exercise, you need to do it with attention to the vital energy movements, as we move different parts of the body, and do it slowly with attention to the vital movements. Then it's the do-be-do part of creativity. Yeah, but again, without it, it doesn't make any sense. Yoga is not a stretching, but actually it's an application to all the systems of transformation. I will see like that. So now, briefly, how we, so as part of creativity, we speak of the 7 eyes. The 7 eyes, you have a lot of recordings about that, but the 7 eyes, they are taking you towards feeling and intuition. And in all this process of creativity, we need to get to expansion of consciousness. Yeah. And what we do, we are also using things that the ego can bring. Yeah. And also things from the self, obviously. And when you say intention, obviously something that starts from the ego level. So just in brief, the stages, which is, again, is part of the preparation process of creativity. So what, by the way, so the first I in as part of creativity is called inspiration. And that's the thing that the movie The Secret forgot to mention. Because before manifesting an intent, if you really want to give it chances to succeed, you need to be inspired. So it has to be something that is making you suddenly manifest in an expanded state, So inspiration. You get that inspiration from a teacher, from nature, from anything that makes, usually it's moments when your heart puts you in that state of inspiration. So, and then in this state of inspiration, which, for example, you can start the day manifesting love and compassion for the world and for yourself. So, for example, anything that puts you in an inspired state. And then you set up the intent, which again, you have to, is not something that you keep changing. So it has to be something that you really, really want. If you really, really want, you have clarity about that, maybe 70% of the situation it's done, but you have to have it very clear, and you have to engage when you manifest an intent, all your desire, all your willpower, and in the same time have this attitude that Amit mentioned, which is actually an attitude of karma yoga, I would say. While he was talking, I just got this idea that it's part of what is called karma yoga. Karma yoga is it's a different kind of yoga, because you're not practicing all kind of techniques, but you're integrating altruistic actions that you do with the honest motivation to also help the others and to be in tune with God's will. So if your intent is not a selfish intent, but it's something that can be aligned with the movement of consciousness, with God's will, however you call it, then there are the best chances that you can start with that and see where it's taking you. But the idea is that you need to be able to guide the unconscious to be open for new possibilities, while trying to solve this problem, So again, but the thing is that you're starting from the ego level, and so again, you have to have a lot of clarity, and there are stages. So again, once you have attention, mental hygiene, and you know very clearly what is that intent, the stages are quite easy, So first of all, you manifest that intent, no matter what it is. Like it's something it's about healing yourself. It's about opening your heart, or anything you want. Just it's not going to be about the red Ferrari, So it has to be something that, again, it's in line with the movement of consciousness. It can be, for example, abundance, because abundance is not about the physical abundance only. It's at all the levels, So you manifest that intent firmly, once you got in a state of inspiration. You set up the intent very clearly. First of all, the first stage, from the ego level, from wherever you are, you set up the intent very strongly, very firmly. This is what I want. This is what, really, with all your power there. And then in the second stage, which will come later on more naturally. So the stages should flow from one to the other, but you can still prepare. So in the second stage, you manifest the same intent for the greater good. So again, now you're not manifesting that intent only for you, you're manifesting also for the others, and also kind of even maybe visualize how once you are manifesting that in your life, this is also reflecting to the others. And eventually you manifest that intent for the entire world. So for the greater good, that's the second stage. And then in the third stage, you surrender this intent to the divine, to the movement of consciousness. As if you put it in the hands of God, fully trusting, and even with a state of gratitude, as if it's already happening. So that's a state which is kind of opening us already for preparing us for the possible quantum leap. And then the fourth stage, you just remain silent. So again and again, you do the same intent, morning and evening, and then play with the doobie-doo and with the other stages of creativity that you can learn about them very easily if you just take a look even at the previous recordings, but especially if you want to join the advanced courses that we have, if you don't know this already, or read the required books. There are so many books that are already very clearly describing the stages. All right, Amit?
Thank you so much. And you correctly mentioned that, yes, the admissions are open for our courses, Masters and PhD in Quantum Science of Health, Prosperity, and Happiness. This is the best time to reach out to us. We also have, for early bird people, some special offers. So if you wish, you can reach us at info@amitgoswami.org. We have also have a new website now, cqaedu.com. A lot of information is there. Go and check that out. In the interest of time, quickly over to Professor Goswami to wrap this up.
Thank you, Krishanu. Well, okay, I'll end up with an experiment that conclusively shows that, yes, our intentionality, sometimes we call it creative intentionality, following a terminology that Professor Pagliaro in Italy has given it, does make a difference. This thing that we become connected to that oneness. This idea is called non-locality in quantum physics, signal-less communication. We become connected because we are that oneness consciousness. But what is connecting us is, of course, this intentionality. This is what we are trying to say. And is this really true? So in quantum physics, this idea is that if two people can be connected with two electrons can be connected with local interaction. Electrons can do that. Electrons have electromagnetic interaction between them. If two electrons come close, they will have electromagnetic interaction very quickly because, they move very fast. Although it's signals, but they move very fast. So if two electrons come close, they certainly will very fast become correlated. We achieve that oneness. Correlation is just another word for oneness, without signals. Once you correlate with local signals, then you become correlated without signals. What does that mean? That now the electrons can go as far apart, like galaxies apart, which is like 2 billion light years distance. Then you cannot say they are locally connected anymore, because light will take 2 billion years to travel from one to the other. But quantum non-locality will still connect them. They're still correlated. This is theory, of course, but the theory has been verified. This last year's Nobel Prize went to Arana Spey, who was one of the people who verified this idea. That originated from Einstein and his collaborators in 1935. Okay, that's all for electrons. Now, of course, what Valentina and I talked about is non-locality at the human level. We can also connect to that oneness through all this intentionality and everything, so that our desires in that refined sense, in that subtle sense, can come true. The basic thing, can that be verified? Intentionality, does intentionality indeed correlate people, connect them to that oneness? Yes, it does. So the man who did this experiment, Jacobo Greenberg, a Mexican neurophysiologist whom I met in 1982, he invited me. He saw my paper and became very excited. So he developed a protocol. The protocol was that two people will meditate together with the intention that they become one. They communicate directly without exchanging signal, non-locally. How can this be verified? So Jacobo Greenberg separated the two meditators in two separate Faraday chambers so that they have no electromagnetic connection between them, and are still meditating on their intentional oneness. And then one subject is shown, like the subject here, is shown a series of light flashes. And that subject's brain is connected to electrodes, which are connected to an EEG machine, and the EEG machine records the effect of these light flashes on the brain, which is called evoked potential. The other subject sitting here in another room, electromagnetically isolated, does not see any light flashes. But his brain is also connected via electrodes with an electroencephalogram machine, EEG machine. Surprise of surprises. The evoked potential in this machine gets transferred as the transfer potential in that other machine. They agree with in both strength and phase. Would you believe electrical potential is being transferred from one place to another, from one brain to another, without any electrical connection? Hard to believe, isn't it? But of course, quantum physics makes it very clear. Consciousness can collapse the same potential in both brains just because of the fact that the two brains are non-locally connected. They are one system. As simple as that. So indeed, your intentionality can connect you to the oneness. The way we have set up the prayer, meditation, inspiration, intention, if you do it that way, and then when you get the intuition, if you're sure to use the creative process to manifest the intention, you will surely be getting your archetypal intention fulfillment. So intend for love in your life and be happy. What else? Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I believe this, particularly what Valentina described about the process, and this is really going to help people who are uh, keen on knowing what subtleties are involved. But we must recommend that you do more. Read the books. A lot of books has been written by both Dr. Goswami and Dr. Onisor. You check them out. If you look at creativity, there are books on creativity, quantum brain. So the information is out there, but if you have to really experience it, then you'll have to come and get in touch with us and attend our programs, be in our classes, and then you really live all these things that you are hearing now. So our invitation is open. Get in touch with us. We will answer all your questions. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you so much.